In the early 20th century, in one of the coldest and most isolated regions on Earth, an entire village vanished overnight. There was no warning, no recorded conflict, no sign of struggle, just silence. What makes this event disturbing is not only that people disappeared, but how completely they were erased. Homes were left standing, belongings remained untouched, and the land itself seemed to forget that anyone had ever been there. The village stood alone, surrounded by frozen ground, dense forest, and miles of unbroken wilderness. Life there was harsh, but it was not new. Families had lived on that land for generations, adapting to brutal winters and long months of darkness. Survival depended on routine, cooperation, and careful planning. Leaving suddenly was not something that happened by accident. And yet, one night, everything stopped. Days later, a traveler arrived expecting to hear voices or see signs of daily life. Instead, he was met by an eerie stillness. No smoke rose from chimneys, no footprints marked the snow. Doors were slightly open, as if people had stepped outside for a moment and never returned. Inside the homes, the scene was even more unsettling. Food sat untouched on tables. Cooking utensils were left mid-use. Chairs were pulled back as if someone had just stood up. Nothing appeared damaged. Nothing appeared looted. It was as though time itself had been paused. Outside, investigators expected the snow to provide answers. Snow remembers movement. It records every step. But there were no tracks leading away from the village, no signs of departure, no signs of arrival. The ground was smooth and undisturbed. As search teams expanded outward, another detail emerged, one that made the situation impossible to ignore. The dogs were still there, tied up, left behind. In communities like this, dogs were essential for survival. They were transportation, protection, and companions. No group would abandon them willingly. Leaving animals behind suggested urgency or fear. The investigation continued toward the edge of the settlement. There, authorities discovered something that changed the tone of the case entirely. The village graves had been disturbed. The earth had been dug up, and the remains were gone. Who removes the dead and leaves everything else? Officials documented the scene, collected statements, and filed reports. At first, the case drew attention, but gradually, the investigation slowed. Records became vague. Details were left unexplained, and eventually the story faded from official discussion. What remained were theories. Some believed the villages were forcibly relocated, others suggested starvation or environmental collapse. But these explanations failed to answer the same persistent questions. Why leave food behind? Why abandon animals? Why take nothing of value? And why remove the bodies from their graves? Another theory suggested something darker, that the villagers did not leave because they planned to, but because they had to. That whatever drove them away did so suddenly, leaving no time to prepare. Inside the abandoned homes, personal belongings remained. Handmade tools, clothing folded neatly, children's items left behind. Not scattered in panic, but placed carefully, as if their owners believed they would return. Years passed, decades passed. The village remained empty. Modern researchers eventually returned, hoping science could succeed where early investigation failed. They mapped the land. They analyzed the soil. They searched for signs of mass movement or natural disaster. But the evidence refused to point in a single direction. The village offered no answers, only silence. To this day, no definitive explanation exists. No proof strong enough to close the case. no conclusion that explains every detail. Maybe the truth lies buried beneath snow and time, or maybe the truth was never meant to be found. Some mysteries do not announce themselves with violence or destruction. They leave no ruins, no bodies, no witnesses. They leave absence. And sometimes, absence is far more unsettling than any explanation could ever be.